Okay, for those joining on the recording, I forgot to hit record up until now. So know that all we did was reconnect with our motivation for class. We've created that as a force field around us. So let's try to stay within that. Okay, so to begin tonight, all things Diamond Cutter Sutra, we really built this up for you, talking about it on Tuesday. So we're just going to get into it tonight. And we thought to start, we would play a little bit because as you'll find out, the whole Diamond Cutter Sutra, which is a text, right? Sutra comes into English in the word suture. And it's because if you think of ancient days when texts were written, let's say on palm leaves and then threaded together to make a book. So you can think of it that way, but it's the text of all texts. You know, in the East, you'll find like every house in Mongolia has one, right? As a blessing, like people, everyone knows what that is. But where was I going with this? So, okay, we'll find out that Diamond Cutter Sutra, the whole thing, like many sutras, is actually this exchange, this back and forth Q&A. You know, before there were podcasts, it was a Q&A between the Buddha and a student, right? Between teacher and student. And so we're just going to play in the beginning here. Hector has taught the Diamond Cutter many, many times. And so I just wanted to mine his mind a little bit about his relation with this text. And you'll see it'll kind of get us into the content for tonight. So we are going to get into homework questions and all of that. But Hector, I just wanted to ask, like, what was the first time you ever heard of the Diamond Cutter Sutra? Like, what was your impression of that text before, let's say, formally meeting it in a Dharma class?
Yeah, I think I only ever heard of it as the Diamond Sutra. Yeah, and I didn't know what it was. I bumped into Buddhism in my early 20s, Japanese form of Buddhism that they chant Nam-myoho Renge Kyo, and I'd heard of the word sutra for the first time. I think they chant the Lotus Sutra. Yeah, and so I didn't know much other than, I knew that Tibetans were books upon books upon books, like they were obsessed with books, but that was about it. I didn't know. I knew the object. There was a book. But the more my teacher taught me from the Diamond Cutter, both in activity and the meaning, like we're covering tonight, and the more I teach it, the more I realize that the object, the book, it's just a representation of realizations we can have, and they're coded in there in things we can read. And if we connect with them with the correctest motivation and view, this unlocking can happen inside. Or like just talking about it wants me, I want to cry, because there's so much power in this, in the understanding from the little coded words that have been translated in all sorts of languages. And so my relationship has changed over time from being, something from India or the Buddha. Well, I don't know the Buddha, but I know that he wrote all these things that if you understand, your own mind unlocks and can Buddha itself, can wake up itself. And out of all the things he taught, this one text, it's called it's a type of text, a perfection of wisdom text. It perfects your wisdom, your understanding, and it is the key to self-liberation for sure. And then, humans call it enlightenment and this and that, but in this text, this tiny little collection of words prompted by a student that asked a question, and then Buddha said all these things. If you know how to read the code, your own mind, my own mind has seen things that were unthinkable for a human. I mean, we think our lives are set, you go through all the human conditions and then you die. And then at some part, we all believe that, and then we're pretending we don't. So we buy cars and we get houses and we try and avoid the inevitable. And this thing opens a door that there is something inside of each of us where all that is just one tiny possibility out of the many we can have. And so for those that are, I don't know, spiritually inclined, and I'm shy to talk about it that way, I think my deepest spiritual practice is very personal. So I tend to do a show and tell about Buddhism and try and be apologetic about don't be Buddhist, you know. But for those that are more spiritually inclined to see the world that way, this is the manual, the spells from Hogwarts. This is the thing that can activate magic for you, you know, the essence of this text.
Yeah, the activator of magic. And I love that reminder that it's a Prajnaparamita text. This, because when I first heard that, I thought, oh, I don't know how to have perfect wisdom. Like, I don't even know what wisdom is. How can you expect me to hold perfect view? And the reminder that in studying this and just trying to pay a little bit of attention, put some movement of your minds on this, that that act perfects the mind. It's a perfectionizer, right? We're going to even
Yeah,
get
yeah.
more examples of that later. But Hector, one more thing, so yes, it's an activator of magic. It's this perfectionizer, but there's a warning that comes at the beginning of right?
Yeah, there is a warning.
Right? That person who studies the sutra, like something may befall them, something intense might come your way. That's how powerful the ideas in this text that you're putting your mind on are. And why? Well, one, why is that? And two, have you had that experience since you've studied this?
I'm laughing because I didn't believe it when my teacher told me that, watch out, there's a little warning label inside this text that if you really understand what this is saying, it'll appear like terrible things are about to happen to you. So someone read the Diamond Cutter Sutra just before the March 2020, somewhere in the world, and they read it with perfect wisdom. So, and here we are. But it's true, right? So the way I think about it now is there is a warning, for those that really understand and practice this thing. You will have stirrings, negativity, hardships pop up in your life, strong, and the explanation is, I don't know. Imagine you were sick for your whole life, and you could only walk with certain amount of energy and see with limited potential, and it was so normal for you that this sickly way of experiencing yourself and the world was your normal, and you just thought that was it, that's all I'm capable of. And then you get this potent medicine, this powerful elixir that will clear out the disease, the problem, the thing that makes you sick. The reaction between the elixir and your normal is can feel harsh. Like you'll get stomach pains and you'll get, like, it will feel weird to experience before you get the relief, before you get the release of, oh my goodness, I see everything now. You will have to go through kind of withdrawals and the growing pains that come from healing. That's the way I think about it now. And so they say that when you read this text and practice it, that maybe karmas, things that would have been really terrible, come up as light hardships. Like, the karma of suffering deeply might come up as a strong headache for a week or something like that. But there'll definitely be a shift. It's unreasonable to think that if you're pouring the essence of this text, which is the perfection of wisdom, the complete understanding of this magic word called emptiness, what the hell does that mean and how do you apply it? And is it the key to unlocking everything? When you get that, then all the things that were keeping you back, that begin to fall away, feel like your skin is peeling off. You're no longer what you thought you were. And it can feel painful, especially if you're attached to the way things were. So the older you are, the more, the more I think it feels like, our brains tend to get sticky. So I forgot about the warning label on the elixir, but you're right, yeah, and I feel it every time I teach it. And let me add a little bit for those of you who have studied this before or something. It felt like voodoo the first time negative shifts happened after studying this text, and not long after studying this text. But it happened every time in a big, significant way. And now my relationship to that is definite purification. Things that were obstructing me, I now associate or reassociate because of the stuff in the text. I reassociate what I used to call suffering into an opportunity to overcome that thing and really feel purified in the sense that my mind is now made pure from what it was holding on to, which was impure. And that's freeing. So I'm not like afraid. I'm not afraid anymore. You know, I'm looking forward for the undertow that before the wave of goodness comes. There's always a pulling that happens before some beautiful overflow. I forgot about that thing. Thanks for reminding me.
I figured we should, because by the
Yeah.
time we meet next, who knows
Warning.
what the world's doing. Now, you've been warned. So let's get into it. I hope can you all still see my screen? I had a little hiccup there. Yeah, okay, great. So some
Should we also say it's like the oldest printed book in the world?
Mhm.
Have you got that ready to go, or should we say that too?
No, we can say that now. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's the oldest printed book in the world, found in China. Completed work, that is, and there's only like two remaining commentaries from the time from ancient India. One from Master Kamalashila 750, and the other one from Vasubandhu 350. Yeah, AD. So it's this authentic commentary from ancient India about what the words mean, realizations passed down from the Buddha to student, from the Buddha, from teachers to student, written down so we can find out the code in the text from ancient India and from Tibet all the way up to the teacher of the Dalai Lama. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we're drawing our information from for this text. It's not made up.
Yeah, exactly. So what you see here on the screen is actually the opening of the sutra. It's the first question that Subhuti, the student, asks Lord Buddha, right? So he asks, O conqueror, what of those who have entered well into the way of the Bodhisattva? We'll pause here. For those who haven't heard the term Bodhisattva, or if you've heard it many times and it just has become normal in your mind, remind yourself what it is, right? So a Bodhisattva, for those who were in the last course, ACI17, you remember that feeling we talked about of being tired, being sick of doing things the old way. Deciding that, sure, I'll go about finding the job and paying the rent and being with the partner, but I'm not going to believe anymore that the source or the cause of my happiness are those things outside of me. And I'm sick of trying to get them the same old ways I got them. I have this sense of renunciation. Not like, oh, there's no point anymore to anything. Just, I'm not going to try that way anymore. There must be something else, right? And you ride that train enough, that renunciation train, and hopefully you can stick your head up and realize, oh, I'm not the only one on that train, right? It's like that feeling when you're on the subway and you're so in your head, and literally you look up and you're like, whoa, there's other people going through a day, having their lives, and they are in this same boat. I'm mixing vehicles now, but same boat, same train. They are no different from me in that way. I want to shine this beam of renunciation, not just inwards to change my world, but outwards in the form of bodhicitta. I wish that for their sake, I could get enlightened. I could be free from every problem, and they could too. So very simply, a bodhisattva is someone who has bodhicitta, the wish to get enlightened for the sake of all beings. It's not a nice person. It's not just a do-gooder. It's not someone who is polite all the time. They might appear that way, but inside is this fervent wish that everything I'm going to do is going to be for the sake of enlightenment, not just mine, but for everyone. So Subhuti is asking, for those who have entered into that way, right, who have an inkling of, okay, that's how I want to live my life, how should they live? How should they practice? And how should they keep their thoughts? This made me think of like the Buddha as the ultimate influencer. Because you know how we go around and like read articles or watch videos of the people we admire, like what's their morning routine like? Or you know what, that's what we do. And this is like the ultimate question of, if I were to live my life for the sake of other people, how would I do that? Right, and so we wanted to present this question here. Hector is going to give the specific answer that the Buddha gave, but know that the entire sutra, the entire Diamond Cutter Sutra is really an answer to this question. And I say this now because later in class, it's going to get heady, it's going to get complicated and wordy. And please pull your mind back to this and remember that everything is an answer to this. Right? It's not intellectual, academic gymnastics for gymnastics' sake. It's how do I become a bodhisattva? What do I do? How could understanding some of this help me do that? How could it be the key? But the specific answer Hector is going to share now. So
Yeah, that's true. And also, I want to highlight that the questioner, Subhuti, for those of you who have been studying for a while, is really Manjushri in disguise, yeah, who turns into some other being later in all the Buddhist practices. So just know who's asking the question. Yeah. Hey, Buddha, you're the I love the ultimate influencer, right? On your TikTok account, can you tell me the answer to this? If I want to wake up, every moment of my mind, every action that I do, every part of my life, what should I be doing to make sure I do wake up, get enlightened for the sake of everyone else? And check this out. This is what the Buddha said to Subhuti. O Subhuti, this is how those who have entered well into the way of a bodhisattva must think to themselves as they feel this wish to achieve enlightenment for the sake of every living being. This is how you should do it. You should think, I will bring to enlightenment the total amount of living beings, every single one numbered among the ranks of living beings, however many living beings there are in whatever realms there may be, anyone at all labeled with the name living being, that's as code, all these living beings I will bring to enlightenment, to the sphere beyond all grief, like no problems at all, where none of the parts of a person are left at all. So you're not even seeing yourself as a suffering being at all. So first of all, he says, you should be thinking that it's your personal responsibility to figure out how to get every single living creature, labeled living creature, to this perfect state of no longer having any mental afflictions, no suffering at all, and in place in complete bliss. In the sutra, he also covers all the types of living beings, those born from an egg, those born from the womb, those mosquitoes that come out of the nowhere, like, and he goes through universes and universes, and he numbers billion, quadrillion, gazillion beings. He's like, you should think you're responsible to get them all to enlightenment, to nirvana. And so that's the start of the answer. And then he says, and this is the flavor of this sutra. So you get that, right? Like already I'm feeling like I can't do that, right? The Buddha said, if you want to live, practice, and keep your thoughts like a bodhisattva, this is what you must do. You must think, it's up to me. I'll do it. Even if it takes me like eons, I'll do it, right? And I'm like, oh, that's so heavy, but okay, let's do it. So Buddha says, that's what you need to do. And then he says, yet, if I do manage to bring this limitless number of living beings to total nirvana, to enlightenment, there will be no living being at all who you have brought to nirvana or enlightenment. He's like, you must work really hard to get everyone awake. You must get everybody happy. And if you should get everybody happy, know that you brought nobody to happiness. There's no one that can achieve that happiness. That you have not taken anyone at all to total enlightenment. Like, what? You just told me I got to do this job for billions of years to try and get every creature awakened, and when I get them there, they're not even awake. What the hell? And that trick, that play with the answer is the flavor right throughout this sutra. He'll say, oh, you want this thing? You got to do this work to get this thing. And when you get this thing, you didn't get this thing at all. Not the way you thought you got it. Not the way you thought the thing is. That's the trick to the entire sutra. The essence is you got to understand there's something else at play that will get you the result you're looking for. And it's not what you think. If you really think you're grabbing people and transforming them and getting them to enlightenment, nobody will get to enlightenment. But you must want to get everyone to enlightenment. But that's not the way. The way is And then he starts explaining the sutra. And we'll cover it. I don't know if that begins to get your mind going, well, I don't know where I am. I'm a little discombobulated. That's how it should feel. It's like, yes, you can get everything you want. And when you get it, you didn't get it at all. That's not how you get it. So get that as a flavor. Get comfortable with that discomfort, because in the gaps of the discomfort is the answer. It's not in the discomfort. It's in the gap that is created with that cognitive dissonance that the Buddha is really weaving in the real answer. So listen with a different mind, because there's clues in the words. Yeah, I think that's what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah, it's perfect. And you left us with clues in the words, which is exactly where we're going to next. So you can all see this, right? That some text should have just appeared about the title. So you're going to see the title. We've been talking about the Diamond Cutter Sutra, Vajrachedika in Sanskrit, and Dorje Chupa. So here we're going to get into, because both of these words are coded, diamond and cutter. And we're going to get into why next. You'll see in Tibetan, stone king or king of stones, right? I thought here actually about Allison when you, I'm sure this happened to other people too, where you walk by the Three Jewels and you think it's a jewelry store. Or like you start coming and you're like, or anything about Buddhism and you're like, why are they so into diamonds and jewels? Like, what's this thing? Why is that a symbol everywhere? Why do we do meditations where we have a diamond at our heart? So we're going to get into what is the diamond a metaphor for? And then what could possibly be even more ultimate than that? So the king of stones, the king of jewels, diamond cutter. And a little clue here, anytime you see a number on a screen, for those of you who are on track to complete certification for this course, that is the homework question that the slide corresponds to. The homework question 1 might be asking you, what is the full name of the text? Give it in Sanskrit and Tibetan.
So no, you're learning the Diamond Cutter Sutra, not the Diamond Sutra, Diamond Cutter Sutra. And in Sanskrit, it's Vajrachedika, and it's Dorje Chupa in Tibetan. Yeah? So, and there's code in the name. Yeah, it's vital to know that. The secret in the text. I forgot you're doing this. Okay.
That's exactly where we're going next. So we're going to start with the title, the diamond, right? Diamond of Diamond Cutter. It is a metaphor for emptiness, and not just in one, but in 3 ways.
Yeah. So to go back to the question that Supriya posed, why is diamond everywhere in Buddhism? This is the main reason. Yeah, this and many more. But this, if you understand why the word diamond is a thing, then you'll understand it's pointing to an experience that you can have in your mind, the experience of seeing emptiness directly, having an understanding of emptiness. Emptiness, diamond. Yeah. What is emptiness? No self nature. No self nature. So all these words that you hear in Buddhist thought, know that they are the same thing. Wisdom is the understanding of emptiness. Diamond refers to emptiness because of these metaphors I'll cover in a second. If you've ever heard no self, please, I beg you, don't waste 20 years of your life trying not to be yourself. That's not what Buddhism's saying. Please, it's a waste of your precious human life. You are a being, have some kind of self, but you're not self-existent. And emptiness refers to no self-existence. And some bastard mistranslated it a long time ago, and all the hippies in the 60s were trying desperately not to be themselves. Wrong. Wasted life. Don't waste your life, please. So that's mini warning there. We're good? Can I get thumbs up if you heard me? Even Danielle, double thumbs up. Thanks. Good. So look, the reason the diamond comes up as a metaphor for emptiness is because the diamond is like the hardest physical substance we can find on this planet. Nothing will cut a diamond other than another diamond. So there's nothing that will cut a diamond, scratch a diamond, lest it's another diamond. So out of all the physical stuff that is understood to be the hardest thing, the most ultimate thing, the ultimately hard thing in this world, a diamond. Yeah, that's why we sorted, whatever. It's nothing to do with the diamond industry. It's a metaphor for an ultimate thing, a thing that is beyond anything else. There's nothing harder than a diamond, nothing beyond hardness than a diamond in this world. Does that make some sense? Can I get thumbs up so I can, yep, good. Now, a diamond, unlike glass that has impurities in it, is completely pure. So if you had a wall of diamond between you and I, perfect diamond, you couldn't tell. It would look exactly like this. You just couldn't tell. It's perfectly clear. Yeah. And so it's unseen by us. It's all around us. And like that clarity, you wouldn't know it's here. Does that metaphor make sense? Yeah. Like a diamond, emptiness is all around us. This concept we call emptiness, no self nature, the wisdom in the Buddhist path is everywhere to be found, but it's unseen. It's like a diamond is perfectly clear. Does that make some sense? Yeah. If you get these, you're like, oh my goodness, I'm beginning to grasp. My mind is beginning to grasp this metaphor of the diamond and why it's important. And lastly, if you smash a diamond, you can smash a diamond. You can't cut it, you can smash it. Every tiny particle of that diamond is exactly the same at a molecular level than every other part of the diamond. Every instance of that diamond, and every diamond that's pure diamond, is 100 perfectly exactly the same as every other diamond in quality. Yeah, it's made of the same substance, carbon. Yeah, so like a diamond, the hardest thing, the ultimate thing, like a diamond, perfectly clear, difficult, impossible to see visually, but all around us. And like a diamond, every instance of diamond is precisely exactly the same as every other instance of diamond. So is emptiness. So is this thing we call the wisdom, the perfection of wisdom, emptiness. Yeah, the emptiness of a thing, which is the entirety of this text, is referring to deeper and deeper explanations for us to understand this concept of no self, nature, emptiness. If we understand that, that's the key that will unlock everything. So we got the secret in the text, right? Diamond. This is what the Vajra or the Dorje means in the title. It means these metaphors. And the cutter part, good. The cutter part, which is vital to have in the title, the part that says cutter is that when you actually have a experience of emptiness in meditation, you see emptiness directly. You've been studying emptiness, you've been creating the courses to have this epiphany about the nature of everything, including your mind and your body. And when you get to have that experience of emptiness in meditation, it cuts the metaphor of the diamond. It smashes it to smithereens. The diamond is not even close enough to the power of that understanding in your own mind. So even though this is the diamond is the closest to emptiness we could ever get to, when you have a personal experience of this thing, it completely cuts and smashes, and it's not even close at all to the metaphor. So the realizations you will get out of this book, if you study it right and apply it and meditate on it, will smash the diamond, will cut the diamond, will cut the metaphor of the diamond. It will destroy the most ultimate thing you could ever find here. You would have reached an ultimate thing that umbrellas everything. And this is your understanding of emptiness, your personal experiential understanding of emptiness, which begins with a intellectual learning like we're doing tonight, and over time habituating that and looking for it, even though you can't see it, you know it's everywhere. And that practice will ignite in you the capacity to have this diamond cutter experience. So is there something else on the
No, that's
on that
all. And
part?
yeah,
Yeah.
no, that's all. And where my mind went is cutter is not a foreign thing for us. If you've ever experienced anything, you've had this feeling of cutter, something that cuts through what you thought it would be, right? Like if you've ever fallen in love, there's what you thought love would be, the poems, the rom-coms, the books you read. And then there was that experience, the first time you had it, that cut through all of those things, right? Or I was thinking of Maya and I's dinner party because we were making a dish that no one else there had tried. So we were going around describing it and we're like, oh, it's like vegetarian Indian chili, right? But you can only get associations through the words until they took that first bite, that cut, right? That experience cut through anything you thought it would be. So it's that same way. So I just want to make that relationship between, you know, you've experienced what a cutter is before. We're just applying it to emptiness.
Or an ultimate thing. Yeah. Yeah. Good.
Okay, so let's go a bit deeper. This diamond cutter, this is, yeah, the deepest you can really get around emptiness. So we're gonna talk now about the thing that emptiness is empty of. So I hope when you leave this class, one, you'll never say Diamond Sutra. You'll only ever say Diamond Cutter Sutra. And always when you think of things as being empty, you'll remember that that's a lack of something. It's not a presence of something, it's a lack of something. So what we're going to talk about now, and the idea of talking about this is to get there faster, is to understand what is the thing that emptiness is empty of. What's the thing that I think is there, but with what all these wisdom texts are telling me doesn't actually exist. Yeah, and so in Tibetan, this is called the gakja, or the object we deny, the thing we say does not exist. And Hector's alluded to it, it's the self-existent thing. So in the pen example, we have to go there. It can't be a 3 Joules Dharma class without one. Here I have the pen of all pens, the king of all pens, a Muji pen. Fight me on that. Oh, good, Maya, you're with me. It is, it's a superior pen. The self, it's okay. Now, I know if you've heard of this, if you've heard the pen thing before, here's what you can do, because there's nothing that the pen thing does not apply to. There's nothing that emptiness does not apply to. There's nothing that does not have a gakja, a thing that actually doesn't exist. So follow along with the pen thing, and in your mind, think about the biggest problem you're having right now, because it applies to that. So we have to remember, because I forget, I wrote my notes down for this class with this pen thinking this is a pen. It is radiating penness. It's radiating extraordinary Muji penness towards me. And anyone who thinks otherwise is wrong. It could be a person who just doesn't prefer Muji pens, they have bad taste. Or it could be another type of being, like a dog, like Jeremy's dog, who, what happens when that being's mind comes and interacts with this object? You don't need to overthink this, right? It's almost spontaneous. I mean, it's without trying, that dog will probably begin salivating as it's coming into the room, seeing this thing, and then it will undoubtedly try to eat it. The whole time my mind is going, what a stupid dog. It's wrong. Right? Now, what happens when all of us log off of the Zoom call and all the dogs log off of the Zoom call? At that time, what is this thing? And it should feel like that same disorienting feeling in the beginning when Hector did the, right? When you take no one to enlightenment, or when you take everyone to enlightenment, you've really taken no one to enlightenment, and that's why it's enlightenment. It should feel like that same, you're kind of suspended. What is this thing at that time? So when does it become a pen? Right? You can't deny that it's not a pen. It is. I wrote amazing color-coded notes with it because I have multiple Muji colored pens. It absolutely is. It functions. That's what it is. But did I decide for it to be a pen? Like if I could, why did I decide for it to be a pen that runs out or that leaks? I had a pen that exploded in my bag the other day. Why would I project perceive a pen like that, right? So we're just investigating here. That should give us a clue that it's not something we're deciding in the moment. And as much as we think the pen is coming this way, it's really something that is sprouting out of my mind involuntarily, spontaneously. Now, where did that stuff come from? There's a whole course on that, karma. We talked about it last time. There's a reason that my mind dependent on something out here, or really dependent on something in here, projects something onto this. It's not by choice, otherwise I wouldn't decide for it to be a pen that leaks all over my bag. The pen that does not exist here is the pen that comes this way. The self-existent pen. The pen that everyone loves. The pen that dogs are mistaking for chew toys. That does not exist. That is the gakcha. It's a thing that emptiness is empty of. So when we say self-existent thing or something with its own self-nature, here's a double negative, something that does not exist as a projection forced on me as my karma. So the fact that that does not exist, and not only that it does not exist, that it actually could never exist. It will never exist. Right? So you could think about, for example, in this Zoom call right now, I'm trying to think, I don't think I see Rachel here, right? This Zoom call is empty of a Rachel. Maybe she's here and I just can't see her, but just for example's sake, the Zoom call is empty of a nature, but that's not the emptiness we're talking about here, right? Because Rachel could be in this Zoom call. She was there on Tuesday. But what about a Rachel that is two-headed and can fly? The fact that that Rachel could never be in this Zoom call, that impossibility, that's what a gakcha is, right? It could never exist. And here's the punchline. That Rachel, the two-headed Rachel who can fly, is the same as a Rachel coming at me, as a self-existent Rachel. There's no difference between the two of them because they both are impossible. It's just not the way things are. The way things are this way. So when we understand what emptiness is empty of, we can stop making the mistake. Because what we do is we relate to the thing that's emanating out, right? That seems to appear. That's playing a trick on us. What we're saying here is, I actually think of gakcha as a gotcha, you know, like a cosmic universal, like gotcha. You think that thing is there, but it's not. And you hold yourself back from making the mistake, because what happens? I yell at the dog that I think is wrong. I judge Rachel. And my whole world, it sets in motion a ripple that comes back in the form of my reality, whatever it's taking. This applies to pens. It applies to things that are not all objects, right? Every single object, like Hector said, has its identical emptiness. Everything is perfectly empty of its self-existence. And like Hector said, this would be the third thing to take away from this course, right? It's diamond cutter, not diamond sutra. What was the second thing I said? Someone remind me. We just went there. I don't know. Oh, emptiness is not a thing. It's a lack of a thing. And now in Buddhism, anywhere, anytime you see the word self, it's a self-nature. Everything without exception lacks a self-nature. Right? I really used to get tripped up on this because people would come up and be like, how are you? How are you doing, Supriya? And I would go into these gymnastics, like inside of, I don't know how I'm doing. Do I exist? Am I a projection? Who is this I that's having these thoughts? Who is this I that's about to give an answer? And it's not that. You don't have to go down that tunnel. All it's saying is that even this thing I'm experiencing right here is not the way it is from its own side. It has a nature, just not a self-existent one. That's the gakcha. And there's a lot of magic in here. If you can just keep working with this idea, it will reveal a lot.
Can I add a second?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So there's this whole debate. What's the point of identifying an impossible thing that never existed, could never exist? What's the point of looking for a object that we call pen, but dogs call chew toy, What's the point of finding that it doesn't have penness in it, that it's not radiating it? What's the point of that? What's the big deal in that, right? So I invite you to think of this. If we could ever find a pen that was radiating out, if you could ever find it, the gacha is trying to get us to imagine what that would look like. And that's an impossible thing. You will never find an object like that everyone is forced to perceive exactly the same. Meaning that object is empty of being pen, empty of having that nature, self-nature, right? That pen, it also applies to every physical thing in your world, every object. The Buddhists say object, right? The object with the deny. So if you're paying attention, note that the object doesn't just mean physical object. It's the object of your mind. It includes your own consciousness. So here is the rub. If you can understand the clear logic that there is no penness coming from that object, because chew toy for dogs, that's clear and obvious, so simple, we miss it. And then that means my mind is imputing, projecting, labeling, experiencing this thing as pen, and that is what makes it a pen. If you can buy that as a working theory, then you can get on with the work of waking up. If you can't buy that, it won't shift you. So I invite you to think of it as a working theory, because the implication is, just like a pen doesn't have a nature, no one's forced to experience it exactly the same way you're experiencing it. Therefore, it's coming from you. It's empty of having that. Yeah. So first of all, try and figure out what a self-existent pen would look like. It's impossible. It doesn't exist. Something that forced its nature on everyone. If you can buy that, the implication is what will liberate you. And the implication is this body of yours, this object you call your physical body, must also be coming from you. It doesn't have to be experienced in reality the way you experience it. It is a body, it's a projection of you. You have no control of seeing it age and at the moment, because the seeds for it in your mind were planted a long time ago. And your own mind, your own consciousness, the way you think, the way you think you are, is also a projection from your mind onto yourself, into your consciousness. And it's not that way, just like the pen. And if you understand that about your body and your mind, only then can you understand, oh my God, so I'm just this eruption of old causes and condition, mental and physical. Everything can transform. I don't have to see myself this way. And either does mom and sister and brother and lover, and every creature, every object can transform because it's empty of a nature. I just wanted to just jolt that in there before you went to the
Well, it's
implication.
perfect because that's exactly where we're going next. And for those who need a break from looking at the screen, maybe you have one of these cylinders that we label a pen close by, and you can do this little exercise. It's exactly what Hector just took us through. But this thing that has cylindrical curvature, right? That is just like data that my fingertips are interpreting as a cylinder. Can I consider the 5 other cylinders gripping this? And then can I consider the larger cylinder that those little 5 cylinders are attached to? What is this thing? You know, if this were Supriya, as soon as I leave the 3 jewels, everyone on the street should be able to turn and say, oh, cool, there's Supriya. I should be this unchanging thing that's emanating Supriya-ness. It's very easy if you just start to investigate to know that that's not true. And so it applies to my physical form, like Hector said, and it applies to my mind as well. And it is the reason, the fact that there is no Supriya-ness that way, right? The fact that I am empty of that there's a gaksha there is the reason that it could transform into a paw, right? And experience this for real as a chew toy. Or it could transform into something enlightened. Something that's not, because again, if I could choose, why would I choose a body that's getting old and dying? Like, I'm on a good trip right now. I'm great. I'm young and healthy, but I know that's going to end. So if I could choose, why would I choose this vessel? You can't choose. You're forced to experience it based on the way you treat this form and other forms around you. So if you decided to be a bodhisattva, right? Subhuti, How do I think? How do I act? What do I do with this physical stuff and this mental stuff to transform into something enlightened, something beyond death, something beyond deteriorating? That's exactly where we're going next. It's the bodies, or better translated as the parts of a Buddha. We'll be doing this quickly. So for those in the last course, you remember that big chart of existence where we divided all things, all existing things, right, into mental things and physical things. I just want to bring us back there to realize that even the parts of a Buddha, you can actually divide the parts of a Buddha into 4 things, 3 things, or 2 things, just to get fancy with it. We're going to go through all of them. But the main 2 are exactly that, physical and mental. And I think that's a clue, because it shows you no one's ever going to come and gift you enlightenment. No one's going to come and hit you on the head and swing, you're enlightened. No, it's physical stuff and mental stuff. What causes physical stuff? Other physical stuff. We talked about that. Like produces like. What causes mental stuff? Other mental stuff. That's why Subhuti's asking, how do I think? What do I do? So we're going to go, so those are the 2 divisions, the Rupakaya and the Dharmakaya. And here's the full, here's some more detail. So within the Rupakaya, you have the first 2 parts of a Buddha, the enjoyment body and the emanation body, and then 2 mental bodies, the wisdom body and what we call the essence body. And we're going to go through all of them. We're actually going to start with number 4, because if you understand number 4, the others make sense. Otherwise, these are just like hypothetical bodies out there of an enlightened being. You have to remember the whole game here is, can this very thing that you feel right now making contact with the surface underneath you transform into that? So the essence body, very simply, is the emptiness of the other 3 parts of a Buddha. So it's that potential, it's that availability of all the parts of you right now, right? That's like, that would be the corollary, or the other 3 parts of a Buddha. And this one's important because it's actually, if you were to draw a line between you as you see yourself now and you inevitably enlightened, there's only one thing that would be constant, that would be the same, and it's this thing. This is sometimes translated as Buddha nature, right? It's not a little tiny Buddha that lives inside you, it's the emptiness, it's your essence body, it's the emptiness of you. That lack of you-ness exists now, and it exists the day you get enlightened. The only thing that exists, everything else I'm always taking care of, doesn't matter. It's going to go. It's going to change. So that's the essence body. The Dharmakaya, the wisdom body, this is the omniscience of an enlightened being's mind, right? So remember, we're on the 2nd mental part. Here, omniscience, not omnipotence. So it's not that Buddhas have this power and they're going out creating wars and pandemics and babies that are dying. It's not that. Omniscience here means a mind that is so clarified that it's able to perceive things in past, present, and future. It has this encyclopedic knowledge of absolutely everything in the universe. Now, the important thing to remember here is, why bother having that encyclopedic knowledge? Does it matter that you can know every detail of everything in the universe? Remember that the only thing an enlightened being uses their omniscience to do is to help others. So they say, imagine how much you could do if you could read people's minds, right? Remember, like, just think about the traps you get into. You're well-intentioned, you're trying to help someone out, but you have no idea what's going through their mind. A Buddha does. That's the omniscient part of their mind. And added bonus, they have the ability to see deceptive and ultimate reality simultaneously. You can think of this as a magician administering a trick, right? They know it's a trick, and they also know how the trick works. So they have that ability. Okay, I'm going to keep going. 2 parts of the Rupakaya, or the form body. You have the emanation body. That's the form that the Buddha takes. So most classically, that would be like your OG Shakyamuni Buddha, right? With the top knot sitting under the tree. But the idea here is that a Buddha can take unlimited forms spontaneously, just the way this pen spontaneously appears to me as pen. For those who can perceive it, right? For those who have the seeds to see it, and there could be unlimited emanations of this all compassionate, all knowing being. Because that's all they want, right? The only impulse they have running through their veins is, I want to show up and free everyone. I want to show up and love everyone. So they could take the form of a song lyric, or of a school teacher, or someone who you used to perceive as very annoying, and now you can't help but see them as, whoa, thank you for teaching me. So that's the emanation body of a Buddha. And then finally, their enjoyment body. This is basically exactly what it sounds like, the body they enjoy in their Buddha paradise with other Buddhas. So do you have the 2 parts, form and mental? You have the 4 parts we just went through, and then the 3 in the colored text. Sometimes you see it in that division as well. Okay. Let's speed through, because we do want to get to breakout rooms, but just one more thing to go through before we get there. So this is going back to the text. This is now the Buddha and Subhuti in another exchange later on. And the Buddha's, this is what he says: think, O Subhuti, of the mountains of merit collected by any Bodhisattva who performs the act of giving without staying, or without seeing, sometimes it says. So what does this have to do with what we've been talking about, right? If it's true that physical things create other physical things, right? The causes for these bodies of a Buddha are the things you do and the things you think. There's a very famous list of 6 things that you should do. They're called the 6 perfections. They're saying, okay, of all the amazing things you want to do, you want to get enlightened quickly, here are the perfections, or really the perfectionizers. And the first of those things is the act of giving. That's why the Buddha is using this as an example, but you can really apply it to anything. Can apply it to the rest of the 6 perfections. So think of the merit, think of the good juju you get out of performing the act of giving without staying or without seeing. This merit, O Subhuti, is not something that you could easily ever measure. We're going to get into, what does it mean to do the act of giving without staying or seeing? What does that mean? This is how the Buddha continues. It's so hard to measure. It would be like measuring the space to the south of us, or to the north of us, or above us, below us, or in any of the ordinal directions. Would it be easy to measure this space to any of the 10 directions from where we now stand? Right? Think as far as you can to the left of you. When you think you've reached the end, keep thinking. It's that's where you're sort of stretching our minds to go. And just so, O Subhuti, it would be no easy thing to measure the mountains of merit collected by any Bodhisattva who performs the act of giving without staying or seeing. I'm seeing some confused looks, which I hope is good, because we're going to get into what does that mean, right? The idea here, we're just playing with, you do something, it has a result. Cause, result. I can't tell if you're reprimanding me, Hector, or someone else.
No, I'm reprimanding someone else with
Okay.
a question mark.
And what he's saying here is, there's a way to do this specific karma, the karma of giving. There's a way to do it that the result is immeasurable goodness. Right? So all of us aspiring Bodhisattvas should be like, okay, cool. How do I do that? I want that. I want immeasurable goodness. So here it is. It's called the 3 spheres. And remember, we're applying it to the act of giving. It can apply to absolutely everything, actually. Here they are. They have everything to do with emptiness. And it's just getting finer and finer with our view of emptiness. So here we're saying, let's take the act of giving. If I were to apply the 3 spheres to it, it's the emptiness of the giver, the emptiness of the act of giving, and the emptiness of the recipient, the one receiving that giving. All of these things are empty of a nature from their own side, which is exactly why they can function. If I can hold that view, right? The 3 spheres, you can think of it like it's your eyeballs, it's your view. I mean, it's not just your eyes, it's the mind that's behind those eyes that's perceiving things. But it's the same as, like, if any of you have ever seen me in the morning without my contact lenses in, I'm like hobbling around to make tea. I can't see anything. The world is the world, the raw data is there, but my view is completely blurry. I change the view, I change my world. It's that simple. So we're going to get, this is exactly what we're going to discuss in our breakout rooms for the next 20 minutes, but I just want to give you a flavor for what those are. And then we're going to get to talk through examples. So why isn't this going?
Can I rewind a second? Just a
Yeah,
second.
please.
Yeah. So for those of you who have heard a little bit about this in the past, or the six perfections, or giving, or why the hell did the Buddha say, how far away can you measure to the left of me and to the right of me? What the Buddha is saying is you can all do good things in your life. You can all go ahead and do whatever you're currently doing to try and get happy. But unless you have the wisdom that understands emptiness, none of those things will get you happy. He's saying in that text, not ultimately happy, you'll get a good result, but the result will vanish and it will dissipate. And then you'll be looking for more things to get you happy. And then whatever you do will get you a result, and then that will disappear. Unless you're operating at an ultimate level of understanding of where your world comes from. It doesn't come from here, it comes from there. So what the Buddha is saying is, go ahead and be a do-gooder. Go and help people not get sick. Go ahead, but that will not save you. Even a tiny act of giving, though, with this understanding that things come from me because they're empty of a nature, that the goodness that will come from that to you is immeasurable. And there's also lines in this sutra saying, imagine you could create the biggest, most perfect act of giving without the understanding of emptiness. That pales in comparison. The result of that will pale in comparison to the goodness you would have created in your own mind, and the results that your mind can experience if you apply this understanding of emptiness, the diamond, the wisdom, to even a small act of giving a crumb to a bird. If you understand it through the three spheres, the result of that for your own experience is infinitely, it's as far away to the left and as measurable to the right, and it's infinitely more powerful to transcend normal. So I just wanted to highlight the importance of what he's saying here. He's like, you want to change your mind? Go ahead, waste your entire life helping people in hospitals. Unless you got this understanding, you can't help them at all. You really want to help them? Apply this view with these three spheres, and that will change everything. And, for those of you that are studying, it's not just the giving, but any of the six perfections applied with wisdom, with the wisdom of emptiness, that unlocks your power in your mind, because it's also empty of a nature. Sorry, I just wanted to highlight how massive this understanding is for us.
Yeah, no, it's perfect. And what we're going to do in breakout rooms is actually ask you to select some sort of act of giving, some example, and move your mind through the three spheres in relation to that example. So I'll just do a quick one now so you have a flavor, but you're going to do it in groups and pick the thing you think emptiness doesn't apply to and try to break it. That's what I would do. But I'll pick an easy example, right? Let's say I'm thinking about bringing dinner for Stephen because he looks a little bored, right? The act of me giving Stephen dinner. And if I were to think about the three spheres in relation to that, it's very simple. The first one, I'm thinking of the emptiness of me as a giver. So of me having anything to give, right? The fact that that's not self-existent, the fact that I as a being am experiencing abundance must be an echo from something I've done in the past, just to have something to give. Now, the emptiness of the act of giving. Let's say I think I am being a great friend by bringing Stephen dinner, right? But I've learned in the past the hard way that if that dinner is too spicy, it's not an act of friendship, it's an act of torture. So the act of giving is empty of a nature from its own side. It is not inherently good or altruistic. It's what my mind is forced to experience it as. And the last one, the emptiness of the recipient, Stephen. Yeah, the fact that he appears to me as a friend who's hungry from his own side is not that way. Right? Who knows how he's feeling? Who knows how Hector perceives him? And the fourth sphere, just to make it a little more complicated, it's easy in this example. Sometimes instead of saying the act of giving, they say the gift itself, right? The very food that he is going to find torturous, Hector is going to love the spice because it's empty of a nature from its own side. So you can pick any example. That was a silly one, but pick the one that's keeping you up at night. If we could just give X, Y, Z to these people in the world, everything would be okay. Whatever it is that you think will take all the beings to enlightenment, forgetting that when all the beings get there, no one really got there, and that's why they got there. It's the same thing. We're going to apply it to the act of giving in breakout rooms. Maybe we'll do 15 minutes, just so that we can end by 9 and have time to come back together, discuss, and answer a few questions before we go. Yeah, so same as, still introduce yourself, get to know each other, select an act of giving and discuss it via the lens of the 3 spheres. Cool?
Any questions about the exercise? Because we'd like to hear and do a Q&A after.
Yeah.
But make sure everyone, so a couple of things. I invite everyone that's not got their camera on, please put your camera on to share and connect with everyone so they could see you. It's much more engaging. Secondly, we'll open up the chat so you can also share stuff via the chat, and make sure everyone gets a turn in your group. But essentially, it's like, can you think of an act of giving that you can now do with wisdom? Yeah. What's the emptiness of me, the act or the object, and the giving and the subject?
Study the 3 spheres before, like if you've done ACI17 or ACI6 before, just stay here and then we'll manually put you in each room. So we'll make sure we have some experienced students. Okay, so enjoy, be back at 9 p.m. or 9:01.
Can you give an example?
I just gave an example.
No, never mind.
No, ask again. What do you mean? An example of the 3 spheres? I just did with giving Stephen dinner. That would be an act of giving. And then I went through the emptiness of myself, the giver, the act itself of giving him dinner, and the recipient, emptiness of Stephen. I can't tell what you are asking.
Never mind, thank you.
Okay.
And then if you've studied this before, stay so we can make sure every group has at least a little bit of a background on.
Meditation class. Oh, no, I like it.
You're lagging a little bit.
Okay, so I'm putting you all.
So Supriya, you're manually putting us in groups, right?
I'm trying.
Or telling us to accept the group we're in. That's an easy way to do that. To go ahead and go to group 4.
Okay. And how do I, okay, I see, move to. Okay. Wow, sorry, this is a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. So just go to a group, see the grayed out names that are here, like it's Janine or Anthony or Maya. And then if you see Janine with no one else from 3 Joules, say, Janine, accept your group, and she'll just go straight in.
Great. Okay, so Jane, you can accept your group. Is Jane here? Yeah. Jane Mackey? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Jane, you can accept your group. Danielle Karuna can accept your group. Sanchel, I'm going to move you to group 1 because no one's there. So
and just make sure people are having good discussions and are understanding the essence of the 3 spheres, and apply it to some examples. We'll get Q&A later.
Yeah, Maya, you can accept your group, and Yuki. Sarah, you can accept yours.
Thanks, George. We'll do that. Yeah, after she shares.
Anthony and Elizabeth can accept theirs. Janine, you're good. And then there's no one in 9 or 10. So I think actually everyone else can just.
No, you have to Twitch 9 and 10 and it shows you the list.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Okay, cool. Karuna, you're good. Thank you. And Leah and Sam, you can be together in the last one. Thank you. So everyone has one.
And then you've still got Hannah. and
And you, yeah. Hannah, you can join the one you're in.
then Supriya, can you list the 3 spheres
I'll do
on
that.
the chat? Sam, did you get a group to go to?
You, and it's really fine. I'll just ask that you pick someone and share the most salient example that came to you and what you determined the 3 spheres were. And here's one way to think about why we're doing this, right? When you're going about your day, you're probably doing countless acts of giving, right? All the time. You're paying for your latte, you're giving all the time. And very rarely do we stop and consider, right? That, oh, this act of giving could have 3 aspects and each of them are empty of a nature. And what the Diamond Cutter Sutra is saying is that if I even think about that a little bit, right? Remember Buddha's response to Subhuti, it's immeasurable, the result that that simple act of giving could have. So like Hector was saying, really sitting in the park and feeding birds could be the cause to see yourself as enlightened. If the view is there, if the right lens is there. So this isn't just a chance to play, because then when you go out on your day, you're not necessarily able to hold that view. But right now, as much as you pay attention to what people are sharing, you're seeding your mind. So the next time you give $3 for your latte or however much it costs in New York, it's not normal. You're thinking, oh, there's something else going on here. That's the idea. So it's not just words. Okay, let's start from the bottom. Group 10. What was your act of giving and what were the 3 spheres?
Okay, so ours was, I'm Michaela.
Kayla.
I guess ours is a bit different. I was sharing that it was my first class, so I was kind of trying to navigate this situation that I have with a coworker. So I'm not crystal clear about the way that it sort of can be interpreted through the 3 spheres, but we were just talking about how I basically have this coworker that I kind of nudge up against every day, and we kind of both have this weird understanding that we're like complete opposites, which is why we work well together, but which is also why we kind of clash. And so we have this idea that like she's the type A and I'm the type B. And so we were kind of talking about how we could sort of reframe that idea in that we're both like empty of those kind of identities, but also we both kind of contain all of those things between both of us, if that makes sense. So yeah, that's sort of what we were talking about. And yeah, still kind of struggling to make sense of it, but that's where we landed.
Cool. No, I mean, playing with the work in the office and playground, as a playground, it's perfect. And let's just see, as the conversation unfolds, it might give you some more, just clarity around what each of the 3 spheres could be. But that is perfect.
Like that example.
Yeah, you, coworker, the thing that's being exchanged. Absolutely. Group 9, Zach's group.
Yeah, we got through quite a few. A hot topic was the election, the giving of a vote. There's the receiving of a vote as a country. And then there are some people that perceive one winner and sort of one person that perceives a different winner. So that was the thing. The social media example was kind of the most salient day to day, in that the images posted are just images, and the person posting them could see them as being sexual in nature, or as being a person standing in power in their own body. But the receiver will get what their karma makes them see. And so in that whole process, and we kind of got to a point where if I'm intending to help and it doesn't land as help, then will I be harmed by helpful people? And then if I help and it lands as help, then I'll get a bunch of help, but it still will end and it's still stuck.
Unless you can infuse it with emptiness at each of the points, right? That's the idea. If you can infuse it with the 3 spheres, that cycle doesn't have to end. It can be this upward virtuous cycle.
It's so cool you got there, because Zach and Michaela's example, and another one that I went to, that you highlighted how things could be empty, but we're yet, and hopefully before we end the class, we can get, how can I then use that experience to plant the most powerful karmas that are so extraordinary you can't measure the goodness that will come to my experience of this world. So we can turn these experiences you're talking to by understanding emptiness. So let's see more examples. Who's the next?
Group 8, Sasha's group. Jane, Janine.
We talked about, well, I brought up the example of like giving somebody a headache. And so the first sphere is the emptiness of the giver. So maybe they're like making a lot of noise. And that interaction is empty because maybe they're not meaning, or they're intentionally making the noise, or maybe the noise is unintentional, so it's not self-existing. Then there's emptiness in the act of giving, where like that's not sorry. And then the receiver, like whether they, or the emptiness in the act of giving, is the sound loud or is it just being perceived as loud? And then we talked about like the actual headache being self-existent. And we sort of talked about how the headache, it is a self-existent thing, but the perception of that pain is a result of a karmic seed that's ripening at this moment, and perceiving that pain as a headache, perhaps because you've given someone that kind of pain, or so yeah,
Cool, that's
it
perfect.
didn't come from the noise, it came from a karmic seed.
It's amazing. I'm really glad y'all went to sensations, because we can go there. And I remember someone saying last time, like one of their motivations for studying this is understanding how to work with physical pain in the body. And it's true. You can, for me, it happened in meditation. Go into meditation, examine those sensations, right? Ask yourself, where can I draw a line around them? Where do they start? Where do they stop? Can I draw a discrete outline around them? What are those sensations? When my heart's beating fast, is it nervousness to see my crush, or is it heart palpitations because I'm anxious? What is it? You can absolutely work with the emptiness of sensations. It'll get us closer to the emptiness of this thing I call me. Thanks, Jane. Okay, room 7, David, Anthony, Anne, Kia.
I'm the spokesperson for
Yeah.
that group. And I'm going to, hi, I'm going to do it slightly different. I want to use all our examples, but for different. So the one example of emptiness of a giver, actually I have 2 examples. One was somebody who created an email chain to give her brother a 70th birthday present. And the emptiness of her intention behind that chain of emails was love, concern for him to be alone, and a lot of care. So what he received was just emails, happy birthday, but the emptiness of her intention of the giver. And so I don't know. And then the other example was somebody seen homeless or hunger or suffering, and giving whatever she had in her purse. So, and so there was like, she didn't know if they were suffering from lack of something, but she still offered what she had. So that's the emptiness of all 3 spheres right there, you know. And then we had an example, and I thought that maybe the example of an object is the Advil. I have a friend who's allergic to it. So she can't take it because it will probably get her into an emergency situation, where my husband can take it and relieves his back pain. And then I think the last one was the best, I think I say for the last, which is the emptiness of the receiver, somebody feeding their dog as an act to cause them to reach enlightenment. And so the dog doesn't have any idea that he's getting, you know, enlightenment wishes, and he's just eating his dog food.
That's interesting. I'm going to jump in there because, Elizabeth, I think similar to what Zach said and similar to what Michaela said, we're highlighting what is, but remember, emptiness is the lack of what isn't. It's the removal of what's an impossible thing. So doing an act with that in mind is what Buddha is saying is immeasurable. So let's take the food for the dog example, or the headache example from Jane. Yeah. What the power, why this is so powerful, is because you will give food to a homeless person, or money, whatever's in your purse, to a homeless person. Normal me grabbing money from my normal purse, I carry purses apparently, giving that money to a homeless person, that has consequences. I actually am walking around thinking of I'm not really overthinking, I'm just Hector with the capacity to have money to give. That's what I am, but that's not my emptiness. That's just what they call dependent. That's what I'm actually am at the moment. Normal Hector with normal capacity. That's uninvestigated me, with my uninvestigated purse, with money, real money that I must have had because other people don't have money and other people have more money. But my normal Hector has normal money in the normal purse. That's still what is. It's not the emptiness yet. And me giving it to a homeless person because I think they're hungry or because I think they need, they get money. Yeah, they can do anything they want with the money. They can eat or they can go get drunk. I don't know. Yeah. But I did my act. And that giving will have a positive consequence because it was a kindness. I intended it nice. But that's not what he's talking about here. The emptiness of those three spaces, and this is true for the headache giver, the headache receiver, or my colleague whose love and hate relationship, we get things done, or whatever. You know, I've got a TED talk about that. Yeah, serious. The emptiness of that is it's sort of what you alluded to, Elizabeth, in the end about the giving to the dog. If it's true that everything is like the pen, empty of a nature, then there is no normal Hector from his own side. I might be this kind of Hector with this kind of body and mind, but I am empty of being that only. I have infinite potential. And so the karma that I'm about to plant by giving, if I want it to be immeasurable, I have to remind myself that my body and mind isn't what I experience it to be right now. What I experience it to be right now is a result of old karmas. It is 100% potential that I have. My emptiness is that I have full potential to be an enlightened being. So now I'm going to put my possible enlightened being, my hand in my possible enlightened being purse, and take out not money, but the causes for every bloody happiness this person can have. Because the money is empty of a nature. It can get someone drunk or get someone food. And so there's emptiness to the emptiness of that money is that it's infinitely possible for that to be anything at all. And I'm going to plant the seed with that understanding that may this turn into an ultimate thing. I'm going to use its emptiness to turn up the volume on my act of giving. I'm not Hector normal now. I'm Hector the magic angel who's about to go and take magic pills out of, or magic stuff out of a magic bag and give it to a being who's not just a normal homeless person. It could be a Buddha disguised as someone as homeless who's begging me to do an act of kindness with perfection because they're empty of their nature. I understand that they are appearing as suffering. I understand that it's currently appearing as money. I understand that I currently appear as normal. But with all those three things being empty of that way, there's infinite potential now. And I'm going to do this bloody act with that in mind. May you turn into a perfect Hector that can give not just a little bit of money, but feed all the homelessness in all of the world so no one will ever be hungry. Oh, and you're just tricking me because you're a Buddha. The same act will have infinite benefits compared to I made someone not be hungry. And that goes the same for the headache giver or the removal of headaches, etc., etc., etc. I just wanted to slither that in there because, like I said at the beginning, we can get stuck in the premise of karma and emptiness and try and understand it. You'll keep doing that for a long time. But if you begin to act as if that's true, you will unravel that understanding in you and others way faster, which is the point of understanding all this heady Buddhist stuff. Can you turn a normal act of throwing $1 to a homeless person into the most divine act that must place an imprint in your mind? And when that imprint is projected upon an empty reality, all you see is that result, everyone trying to help you, or whatever the result of that powerful karma would be. Sorry to cut halfway through and ramble, but I thought I'd get that in the middle somewhere so we can hear it this way, because that's the implication of this sutra. Everything you think, say, and do has that potential because it's empty.
Hector?
David?
I have a question about like this, the actual act of doing this. Like, is there a distinction, or how do you distinguish in your own daily life between doing this like intellectually and like really doing it? Like,
there's no distinction. Like, your mind is perceiving my hand grabbing a dollar bill, and then my mind is looking at, oh, I better give him a $5 bill. Oh no, I'm feeling extra generous, I'll choose a 50. Like, every moment of that is the giving. And so I remind myself, now it's sort of second nature. It's sort of habituated because I've done it for a long time, right? That money isn't money. And so through the habit of actively thinking each time, it now becomes the way I do it. Yeah. I don't know if that helped, but let's continue the round so we get everyone's stories before we close.
Yeah,
and then
we have like 6 groups left still. So if the groups please share one of your examples as concisely as possible. Group 6, Sarah, Jeremy, Mackenzie.
So we had a really beautiful group. Sarah gave us a little preliminary teaching on what Hector just said. So that was really nice to hear. But it was really interesting, at least for me, to hear Donna talk about, should I be giving and not expecting anything in return? And it's almost the complete opposite of that when you look at the emptiness of you and the act that you're doing, and even the emptiness of what's going to happen as a result of that action. Was really fun to think about. And so I reminded Donna that it's all about the motivation that you have while you're doing the act of giving. That's what's most important.
Beautiful. Thanks, Mackenzie. The next group, I can't tell. Maya, were you in a group? Because I know the Beinecke fam.
Yeah, it was me, Christina, and Melissa.
Great.
Christina had to go, but we talked about the emptiness of giving compassion, whatever way that may be, and we kind of got into our intentions empty too, and how do our intentions play into things, and we talked about how with the emptiness of the giver, the emptiness of the recipient may not match the intention of the giver, which is how that intention is empty in that moment.
Cool, kind of related to what Mackenzie was just sharing.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing. Room 4, Hannibal, Lena, Ming.
If everybody in my group can hear me, we got cut off at the end. And if it's okay with you guys, I'll give it a shot.
Sure, go ahead.
Go for it. Do it.
So we talked about a couple, Lena and I think Adina brought up a couple examples, and we're all kind of struggling to understand, but Hannibal was walking us through, and at the end, he said, if anybody has one that they haven't brought up, then go, and we got back to the main room. So I'm gonna try to parallel what we discussed with an example. So the example is me watering a plant, and I see myself as a giver of water to the plant. But my roommate walks in and sees me as a taker of life because I'm overwatering this plant. I'm killing this plant. The act of giving itself, I see myself as giving satiety, giving quenchedness to this plant, but the plant itself is, rather than an act of giving, I'm taking away its thirst. And the recipient, the plant itself, I see a living, thirsty plant, but in fact, it's a fake plant the whole time. Did I hit it?
That was awesome. It was poetic too, the way you laid it out. I loved it. It was cool to see you working through that real time.
Yeah, cool. Thanks.
Okay, this was an intense group. Christina, Maggie, Deirdre. I was eavesdropping here for a bit.
Plot twist. Thanks.
Yeah. Can someone chime in from group?
Yeah, I realized I don't think we picked a speaker, but I'm happy to give it a go. The topic of euthanasia came up for this group. We were kind of playing on that hospital example that someone gave earlier. And yeah, we were all kind of trying to understand how this worked, and Supriya came in, which was very helpful. So the idea of, you know, a healthcare professional, it's someone's end of life, and the emptiness of the healthcare professional themselves. The idea being that, you know, not all doctors are the same. They're not all going to provide the exact same level of care. You're going to get different care from different doctors. Different results could happen. And the idea of the actual act of euthanasia, the emptiness of the giving. This is where it got interesting. It was sort of like, you know, one person may see it as sweet relief and someone else might see it as taking away their autonomy or sovereignty or a violation of their rights. So there can be different ways to look at that act. It's not intrinsically one thing. And then this is where it got interesting too. We were talking about the similarity between numbers 1 and 3, the emptiness of the giver and the emptiness of the recipient, and how it's very similar. Like there's no separation between giver and recipient in the way that they're perceived. That's kind of where we landed, I think, on that one.
Can I jump in there for a sec? I know we're short on time, but Alyssa, I was with my mum as she was dying of pancreatic cancer, and I was with her for 2 months. And I hadn't been with my sisters or brother for we hadn't been in the same room for 18 years or something. All of a sudden, we're all around my mum's deathbed. And she's a tough bitch. She's like, I'm putting up with pain. I don't want any drugs. And then it got gradually harder and harder for her to sustain the physical pain, to the point where she needed to get more and more and more sedated. And at one point she chose to get so sedated that she'd be knocked out, and then she would just die naturally from hunger, which is what happens. Every time the same nurse came in to give her the sedation, to give her the drugs, I saw someone fulfilling my mum's wishes, even though I had a different opinion. But I saw this person really caring. I really saw her caring and trying to be gentle with my mum. My sister could not see that. She called the doctor Mr. Death every time he would walk into the room. To the doctor, like this person who had been trained and was doing this to all the other beds. My sister was violent in her mind about who this creature was. You're here to kill my mother. And she wasn't pretending, and she obviously wasn't holding back. and created so much tension. My other sister was just seeing like, please do your thing, get out of here, because I'm so embarrassed, right? Like she was having a completely different experience. And my brother was depressed with a headache on the couch. And every time this doctor would come out, these 3, 4 realities, 5 realities, if you count my mum, would appear upon the poor bastard doctor who was doing this to every other room. Like, poor guy, like he's doing his job, right? Which I disagree personally, right? But I'm like, I see it as that. And I wasn't trying and I wasn't pretending. And my sister wasn't trying, wasn't pretending. Yeah. And so the emptiness of the doctor, right? If I was him, I would be like, I am not none of those things and all of them. Yeah. The act of doing it, the emptiness of that is my mum she asked to be so sedated that she would just die. And the moment the doctor came to give her that final injection, she changed her mind. Like when the needle was about to go in, she's like, no, I don't want to. The emptiness of that experience. So then it took 4 days before she changed her mind again and said, okay, come and do it. So that whatever she thought she was going to get from that injection and pass out, her mind kept shifting about the reality. And when eventually she did, the dosage wasn't right. So she went through like 24 hours of half there and half not there. And we couldn't tell whether she was in pain or relief. In pain or like each of us was having their own projection of the act itself. And then God knows what she's having the experience because we couldn't talk to her anymore. So, sorry, that example really was palpable for me. And like that is every experience we will ever have. So what karma produced my sister's shitty Dr. Death experience, because it was real, and then the words she said to him must come back to haunt her. They have to. She planted that vileness in her own heart. My other sister's confusion, she's planting the confusion and avoidance into such a powerful, important moment. You know, I'm trying to be all bloody Buddhisty and I can't please anyone and I'm planting my own stupid thing. And because things are empty, we eat these seeds of action that must have consequences equal to the action. And that's the power and the importance of these 3 spheres. Because if we understand the emptiness, we know it doesn't have to be that way. It could be something else. And with that wisdom, then the results are infinitely virtuous. If you choose not to say Dr. Death, you know, if you choose not to harm in your action because you understand you'll be harmed. Yeah. Sorry, I just had to jump in there. I probably took over time. Sorry, Supriya.
No, it's okay. Can everyone give us 10 more minutes? Notice my use of language. Please give us 10 more minutes and I think we can be done. Just want to give group 1 a chance. Also, Maggie, I'll just speak to this quickly in case anyone has this question. So our projections never affect what is actually happening because what is actually happening is empty. So Hector sort of touched upon this in the example, right? So in the moment of his mom's death, he held whatever view he had, right? And the results are going to come up based on it's like a conveyor belt. Like you can't help what's coming, or like airplanes taking off. There's an order of operations to it. And so in the moment, what is coming up is empty. And what does that mean? Doesn't mean it wasn't happening. Doesn't mean his mom wasn't dying in front of his eyes. She was. But the experience of that he just shared was radically different for every single person involved, all the siblings, the doctor, and his mom himself. Now, what you actually
that reality exists. That reality exists. It's real, but little are real because it could be any of those. But the one you're having is your real one. Because it's empty, not despite it, because it's your projection.
Yeah, and the result of having the 3 spheres in his mind at that time, the result would not have come then, right? As we discussed in the How Karma Works course, the results always come after the causes and they're always bigger. So this immeasurable result that would come from just having the 3 spheres in his mind for a moment is going to come later. So yes, he might have the projection of his mom dying, which he did, and she really did die. But the result of the 3 spheres, right, of that infinite virtue, that's still coming. It didn't happen in that moment, but it's still coming. It's kind of like what Mackenzie was saying, where you can't Don't get caught in the result that you're expecting in the moment, right? It's all delayed.
And the result you're having now is a delayed response from whatever was put in your mind before, whatever seeds you planted a long time ago. That's my mother dying. That's why my sister was forced to hate it. So she put something in her mind that caused that reaction in her. My mum didn't put it there. The doctor didn't put it there. I didn't put it there. My sister put it in her own mind, not knowing that that would be the result much bigger later. And so there's a problem when we think about projections to imagine that they're not real. In Buddhist sense, projection is you can't find penness in the object, but it is a pen for those that are forced to see it as pen. That is a pen. There is no other pen. That other pen is a gotcha, is a mistake. There's no pen projecting penness. There's no Dr. Death projecting Dr. Deathness. He's a savior and he's a saint and a demon. And he's neither. But he really is a demon for my sister, and he really is a saint for my mum. He's empty of either. That's what he really is. There is never and will never be a doctor that walks into the room and is saint from their own side. Impossible. It's like a pen that would exist without, by its own nature. And that this is such a fine point. If you're getting the hint, or you're getting suspended, or you're getting a headache about it, you're close.
And don't say we didn't warn you. You said things would come up if you put your mind on diamond cutter. Okay, last group 1, Sanchal, Jingjing, Christine.
Hey, is gonna represent.
Yeah.
Right.
Cool. So we were a group in which one thing was sort of presented, and then we sort of dissected the one thing. So the one thing is rooted in 3 seemingly innocuous words, one question, which is one person asking another, how are you? So the emptiness of the giver here is the fact that those 3 words, that one question, that phrase in and of itself doesn't actually have really any meaning. The intention behind asking that, the projection behind the answer that you would desire to get from that, of the giver giving those words, asking those questions, frames what the desired outcome of the answer might be. And the emptiness of the act is that, again, those words in and of themselves don't mean anything, especially when you take into account the language and the culture that question is actually being asked in, and what an appropriate answer might be in that culture. And then the emptiness of the receiver is that question in and of itself can be answered in a multitude of different ways and perceived in a multitude of different ways. So this question and this like expectation and desire and attachment to an answer, or even the desire to ask this question, I think speaks to the fact that this question in and of itself is devoid of anything, is emptiness, and it is being imbued with some sort of meaning by both the act itself, by both the person giving it and by the person receiving that question. We had a big group.
You did have a big group. You were a weird group.
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. And I know we have a week, or a little less than a week. No, can I do math right now? We don't meet again formally until not next week, but the week after that. And I hope you can like sustain that feeling of suspension that you might be feeling, that headachy sort of like, whoa, what's going on feeling for those days. So it's sort of like we've cursed you with the blessing of now looking for the emptiness in absolutely everything. Because it's true that there's nothing it doesn't apply to.
But the big implication is, if you think about it right, because things don't have a nature, the intention with which the hopes you put, the visualization you put behind the act of doing anything, that's what you're going to get as a result. Ignore whatever you're expecting as a result in the moment. Know that the next time you talk to your work colleague, Michaela, like whether they act shitty or not, pretend that because of what you just did, because they're empty and you're empty and the act is empty, may this result, like have a different intention for the result. May we find out that we're best friends for the rest of our lives, or we solve world problems by having this tension. Because it's empty, tension doesn't have to be tension. Maybe we're rubbing up against solving a big world problem. And that seed is what's planted in your own mind, which is what you must be projecting next time. Next time meaning 3 months, 6 months, doesn't matter. Just keep planting seeds because everything's empty and real.
Yeah, and if it feels like mind games, then just think about how thinking normal has gotten you to where you are now. Like normal this is normal. So like, yeah, it might, I remember the first time I was like, this just feels like I have to think a lot more all day. Like David, your question, it just feels so intellectual. Like I can't just go and mindlessly do anything. But the premise here is nothing is mindless. There's a part of you that's aware of everything, even when you're tuning out and being mindless. It's still planting karmas in the soil, and it's going to have a result. So why not fertilize it with the thing, the ultimate thing, understanding of emptiness? That's all the 3 spheres are. Inject emptiness into every single thing. Inject the infinite, the indestructible into everything. What will that do to the result? It'll make it come faster. It'll make it indestructible. It'll propel from unenlightened to enlightened, is the theory.
But also make sure you're doing nice things. Yeah. Otherwise, you're going to get unlimited shittiness back. If you're doing bad things, thinking of the emptiness of my meanness, then you're just going to get infinite meanness.
Okay, and so we actually have our first chance to practice. I'm just going to share the dedication. So this is the bookend to what we did in the beginning. And, oops, sorry, give me a moment. And you can think as we do this, as you're dedicating, what the idea of dedication is, you're giving away whatever understanding you got from this class. So who was giving teachings? Who was receiving teachings? Who's giving them away, and who are you giving them away to? You can play with that so that these aren't just words and mudras. Hector, do you mind?
No, you do it. You want to do it? I'll mute.
Okay. Oh, one moment. Oh no. Sashi Puki Jikshin Metok Drum Rira Blingshin Indeg and Padi Sange Shindu Mikte Uarki Drokun Namdak Shinra Druparshon Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kam Niryatayami Gewa Di Kewoku Sunam Yeshe Sok Sok Shin Sunam Yeshe Lejunwe Dampa Kuni Topar Shon.
Thank you, Supriya, for teaching. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Such a blessing. I'm going to hang out for a few minutes if anyone wants to chat. Yeah.
Same. I'm going to stop the recording though. And reminder,